Picture this. It's Sunday evening, you're well rested after a very nice weekend, and you're sitting on your couch, laptop open, hoping for fresh ideas and staring at that little bio box on Instagram once again. And then you type, financial advisor and wellness practitioner, delete. Strategic consultant and mindfulness teacher, delete. Multipassionate entrepreneur helping, delete. And then 20 minutes later, you're having a full existential crisis. I mean, do you mention the business strategy work, the breathwork certification that you have, or your background as a service designer? What about the writing, the speaking? You finally settle on something generic like helping women build businesses, because at least it's not wrong, but it doesn't feel right either. It feels like you're wearing a costume that's 3 sizes too small. Or maybe you're the person who changes her bio depending on what project you're promoting. Monday, you're the business strategist, and Wednesday, you're the wellness coach, and Friday, you're back to creative consultant. By Sunday, you're updating it again, feeling like you're living these multiple lives online and none of them capture who you actually are. Does this sound familiar to you? Welcome back to the Freedom Pivot. I'm Hannele, and if what I just described sounds painfully familiar, this episode is specifically for you. Because today we are diving into one of the biggest challenges facing multi-passionate entrepreneurs. How do you talk about what you do without fragmenting your soul into digestible pieces? We're going to cover why the traditional pick a niche advice can sometimes feel very suffocating, and how to position yourself authentically when you have multiple interests and expertise areas, and most importantly, how to develop your own language, your own way of saying what do you do that allows you to show up as your whole self while still making sense to your dream clients. Because what I've learned through my own journey and working with brilliant, multifaceted humans, your diversity is what makes you you. So don't shy away from it. You just need to learn how to talk about it. And I want to start with a story that might sound familiar. A few years ago, I was in a place where I was working as a compliance officer, designer, and an educator. In addition, I was serving both individual, so B2C clients, and organizations, B2B. And simultaneously, I was building business coaching practice on the side. Well, I was building it in secret. And on Monday mornings, I would put on my corporate compliance officer hat. I was reviewing policies and conducting audits and making sure everything was by the book. Tuesdays, I was switching gears completely, and maybe I was facilitating these design thinking workshops, helping teams to innovate and solve problems creatively. And Wednesdays, I was building my online course and creating sales funnels. And then I would sneak onto my laptop to work on business coaching content. I was blogging each week because I firmly believe in content marketing. But I wasn't sharing the posts anywhere because they were talking about business coaching, which did not fit any of the other categories I was working on. So I had no idea what to put on my website and social media about myself. And for the longest time in my Instagram bio, it just said, I write. These 2 words, I write. Not what I wrote about, not who I helped, just I write, because that was the only thing that felt safe to claim without having to explain the beautiful mess of everything else. But I felt completely disconnected from myself. I remember looking at my social media accounts, these random posts that revealed nothing about who I really was and what I was passionate about. And I remember thinking, who even is this person? Where did I go? And I had all these, I don't even know how many different Instagram accounts, because I tried to categorize my life into these different social media accounts. And then at the end, I wasn't posting anything. And this also led to growing criticism in my head. Don't do that. Why don't you do this? You can't act like that. You're a serious person talking to serious corporate people. And this internal voice became so relentless, policing every move, every post, every thought about stepping outside the narrow boxes I had created for myself. And that's when I realized I was doing what so many of us do, which is very, very human. I was dissociating those parts of myself to make other people more comfortable. And I was not owning the multifaceted personality that I am. I am interested in many things. And while seasonally one thing may lead, I don't want to let go of any of them. Or if I do, that should be fine too. It's not a failure. I can shift to another thing. And yes, here's the other thing that we are socialized to stick with one thing, and for God's sake, don't jump around. Don't confuse people. Pick a lane and stay in it. But this is what I think about fragmentation now. It doesn't just affect how others see you, it affects how you see yourself. Because when you constantly present different versions of who you are, you start to develop what I call a very harsh inner critic on steroids. Because no matter which version you show up as, there's always this voice saying, you're not the right kind of expert, or you're not a real strategist, or you don't belong here. That's the ultimate message. You don't belong here. So you become this square peg trying to fit into a round hole, not realizing that maybe the problem is not the peg. Maybe the problem is that you're trying to fit into someone else's hole instead of creating your own shape. I see this with my clients all the time. There are these experts who's also a certified yoga teacher, but is afraid to mention mindfulness in her practice. Or the marketing consultant who's deeply spiritual, but thinks that her corporate clients won't take her seriously if she mentions intuition. Ask me how I know about that too. We assume that people won't understand. We assume they will be confused. We assume we need to water ourselves down to be palatable. But what if that assumption is actually wrong? What if your multifaceted nature is actually what makes you irreplaceable? And I think that we need to completely flip the script on traditional marketing advice. Because I'm sure that you've heard it a million times, that riches are in the niches. You need to pick one thing. Confused minds don't buy. And of course, there is some truth to that advice if you're selling widgets. But chances are you are not selling widgets. You're selling transformation. You're selling solutions to complex, multi-layered problems. And complex problems require multifaceted expertise. So, going back to my own journey, I discovered that I don't need to pick a niche. I need to build my own niche. And maybe even more importantly, I need and I want to integrate all of these sides into one, Hannele. Instead of trying to fit into existing categories, I realized that I am the category. Because my unique combination of legal background, design thinking expertise, business strategy, intuitive coaching, that's not scattered, it's really integrated. There is a thread that is connecting everything, and that thread is me. So how does it work in practice? When I work with experts or corporate people who are eager to make the leap, who are eager to make that freedom pivot, to start their own business, or entrepreneurs who are wanting to pivot from their existing business to a new one, I'm not just giving them business advice. I'm helping them navigate the identity shift from, for example, from an employee to entrepreneur. And I'm using all of these tools in my toolbox, like design thinking or service design, to help these people to understand their clients' real needs. And I'm addressing the mindset blocks that come from years of traditional training and corporate world, and also these intergenerational cycles that lead to good girl conditioning and all these blocks inside of us. A pure business coach might give them a business plan. A pure mindset coach might work on their beliefs. And of course, pure lawyer would only focus on the legal issues. But I'm the person who understands the specific intersection of the corporate life, the golden handcuffs, entrepreneurial fear, and the identity transformation, and also business strategy, technology, processes, all of that, like left hemisphere side of our brain. That intersection is my niche. And I think that the key insight is here that you are not a collection of random services. You are a curated experience. You are the common denominator between all of your different interests and expertise areas. So you can think of yourself as the front door to a beautiful multi-room house, or garden, or mansion. And people don't come to the front door confused because they come because they are drawn to the overall aesthetics, the feeling, the promise of what's inside. And then once they are in, they can explore the different rooms that interest them most. And the answer for myself to integrate these different sides of me was to develop my own language. For example, when I talk to corporate people about heart-centered, soulful work, words that might make them run for the hills, I use language they can digest. So I don't shy away from that interest and from that side of me, but I create a language that they can understand. I talk about human-centered design or client-centric approaches or sustainable business models. They include these elements of heart-centered, soulful work, but they are also more easy for them to digest. Same concept, different packaging. And what's most important for me is that I'm not hiding my soul. I'm just translating my soul into their language. Okay, so how do you actually implement this? How do you move from fragmentation to integration in the way you talk about your work? So I'm coming back to this door idea. Think of yourself as the front door for your work or your business. And then behind that front door, build doors, not walls, to different parts of your offering. And here's what I mean in practice. On my website, I have 2 doors, one for business coaching for entrepreneurs and another one for innovation facilitation for teams. So I work with both B2C and B2B, and I have a separate door on my website for each of these clients. And then people self-select based on where they are in their journey, not based on what methodology I happen to use. And it's super important that when you talk about yourself, don't lead with I am statements. That's the most common thing I see in marketing and communication, that entrepreneurs are so, of course you're proud of who you are and what you do, but talk to your clients directly. Instead of I am this and that, you can say, are you a burnt out mother who needs support with her health? Or are you an entrepreneur looking for more high converting leads? Don't talk about you and the details of your services in a passive voice, but talk to your people like they were sitting in front of you. Then really useful tip is to get curious about your people instead of making assumptions about what they can handle or cannot handle. And this is where service design tools become very invaluable, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Just talk to your clients. Ask them how they describe their problems and pay attention to the language they use. What words resonate with them? And then you can mirror those words back to them. And that is the magic when they feel like, oh, I'm seen. And I learned this lesson the hard way. I was so worried that corporate people would not understand soulful business building that I never actually asked them. And when I finally did, I discovered that the people who were drawn to my work were specifically looking for something different from traditional advice. They wanted the soul part. They just needed me to connect the dots for them. And then final tip for you is to give yourself permission to iterate and experiment. Your title, your bio, your elevator pitch, none of these need to be perfect from day one. In fact, they shouldn't be. Try something and notice how it feels in your body. Does it feel tight and constraining, too exposed, too comfortable, too ordinary? Social media is your excellent testing ground. People are not paying as much attention to your bio changes as you think they are. They are probably too worried about their own bios and titles. So you can experiment with different ways of describing your work and see what attracts your ideal clients and what feels aligned to you. But I also want to say one thing here. When you are developing your own unique language, don't forget to include the words your clients actually use when they are searching for help. So don't be too cute and clever, but try to be also clear. If you are an accountant who also does energy work, you still need the word accountant in your bio somewhere for SEO purposes. But the trick is strategically combining client search terms with your personal brand language. Something for you to think about: when you stop fragmenting yourself for other people's comfort, you give them permission to show up whole too. I have clients who've told me that working with me helped them realize that they didn't have to choose between being professional and being authentic. They didn't have to leave their personality at the door to be taken seriously in business. And that ripple effect, that's the real impact of your integration. And yes, of course, some people won't get it. Some people will be confused by your multifaceted approach, but those aren't your people anyway. Your people, your real people, are looking for exactly what you offer. They are looking for someone who understands the complexity of their situation because you have navigated complexity yourself. That corporate person who wants to build a heart-centered practice needs someone who understands both corporate and authentic leadership, for example. The creative entrepreneur who's scaling their business needs someone who gets both artistic vision and business strategy. You are not too much. You are not scattered. You are exactly what certain people have been looking for, your people. So, what should people call you? We come back to this question. Whatever feels most aligned with you, who you are, and most clear for the people you serve. Maybe you are a strategic intuitive, maybe you are a heart-centered business lawyer, maybe you create your own title entirely. The point is not to find the perfect label, the point is to stop hiding parts of yourself and start integrating them into a cohesive, authentic brand that attracts exactly the right people. If you're ready to stop fragmenting yourself and start building a business around your integrated expertise, I'd love to support you. My signature coaching program, the Freedom Incubator, is specifically designed for multi-passionate professionals who want to build businesses that honor all parts of who they are. You can find all the details at the link in the show notes or reach out to me directly on Instagram. You can find me at Curious Hannele. This is one-on-one coaching where we can dive deep into your specific situation and create personal strategy that feels like home. And if you are thinking, well, I don't need a whole program right now, I just need help articulating what I do, I hear you. Sometimes all it takes is one focused conversation to unlock the clarity you've been searching for. So even a single coaching session can help you finally write that Instagram or LinkedIn bio that actually feels like you. So if that sounds like what you need right now, let's chat. And speaking of the multi-passionate entrepreneur life, next week I'm joined by someone who truly embodies this integrated approach. Sarika. She made the bold transition from a permanent position as a UN officer to building her own multifaceted business around sake education, face yoga, and so much more. So we will be diving into her story of leaving the golden handcuffs of a prestigious international career to create something entirely of her own. If you've ever wondered what it looks like to successfully navigate multiple passions while building a sustainable business, you won't want to miss this conversation. Here's what I want to leave you with. Stop trying to fit into someone else's niche. Build your own. Thanks for being here, friend. Until next time.